What up, family? What up, family? Glad to be back in the building. Been out the office here a little bit. So glad to be back up in here with the fam and doing what we do best. Let me jump back up in here real quick. Let me grab everything here for you. Make sure we have everything we need to deliver this phenomenal content today. I'm super excited about this one. Bear here with me, y'all, while I just get everything organized here. Super excited about this particular training because we're going to get into some really important stuff. But if this is your first time rocking with me, let me do a quick introduction. My name is Perry Jeffries, the financial strategist, fractional CFO, co-founder of and founder of Cash Flow Unlocked and the president of Diamond Equity Advisors here in Columbus, Ohio. We've managed over $80 million in clients' assets, helped over 1,000 families retire. I retired my wife before the age of 40, and I became work optional before the age of 50. And today, we're going to be talking about something that will completely shift how you see and view money. So let's jump right into this thing, right? So the topic today is how wealthy people spend money. Okay. So before I move any further, just want to make sure that y'all can hear me out there in the world. Everybody can hear me okay? Everybody's good? Yeah. Everybody can hear me? Perfect. Show me some love if you can hear me. I see some people here watching us out there. If you can hear me, show me some love. I'm going to make sure that you guys can hear me loud and clear because I think this information is just going to be invaluable for you guys right now. So if you can hear me here, say something in the comments. Dan, if you can hear me over there on Instagram, say something in the comments. I want to make sure that everybody can hear me loud and clear. All right, sweet. All right, so here's the deal. I want to tell you guys a quick story because I think it's super important. Let me first preface it this way. Wealthy people don't just make money differently, they spend money differently. So let me first address how wealthy people make money. And this is not my theory. This is what I've learned from, over 20 plus years of helping people grow their wealth. Over, 15 years now, I think, of being a full blown entrepreneur, a ton of case studies and a ton of interviews. I actually make it my mission to connect with wealthy people to learn what they're doing, how they're investing their money, and things of that nature. Right. So jumping right into this thing, they make their money differently. How wealthy people make their money is they make their money off of assets that produce cash flow. That could be real estate, entrepreneurship, infopreneurship, getting paid off their knowledge, as well as, some of your traditional, non-traditional investments, right? But more importantly about how they make money is like we need to start thinking about how they spend money, right? That is the training today is how they spend money. So I'm gonna introduce something to you here, a principle that I learned. But first I got to tell a quick story. So anybody knows me know I love a good story session, right? So the story I have here it was, I think, maybe about 5 years ago. I had reached out to a buddy of mine, hadn't seen him around the gym in a while, and said, "Hey, bro, I ain't seen you in a second. Where are you? What's up?" And he's like, "Hey, man, I relocated out of state. Let me show you something." And he pulled his phone up, and what he then FaceTime me was a three-story home, right? Um, Beautiful home, right? And come to find out, this home was actually in a private area that was isolated for individuals who had aircraft. So, like, literally, when we went to go visit him later on that year, because I was like, dude, this is absolutely amazing. I'm coming to see you. So, we flew down to go visit him. And as we were traveling to his home, me and my wife were just blown away. You know, we live in a decent area. You know what I'm saying? We live, off a golf course, right? And so we're used to nice areas. But when we're going to visit him, things start to get a little strange. And where it started to get strange is when we were seeing carports, but there weren't cars on these carports. There were helicopters and little small airplanes. And we're like, what in the world is going on? And as we're following the GPS, we get to this section where we need to make a right hand turn. And I've never seen this particular sign before, right? I didn't seen signs like, hey, railroad crossing, train, or whatever the case may be. But this was like, hey, This is a runway. Watch out for planes. I'm like, where are we? So literally, we had to cross a runway to get to his home. So we get there, and I'm super proud of my guy. He grew his business. I knew all the ebbs and flows and the highs and lows of growing a business. As many entrepreneurs know, if you're growing a business, it's not always great. You're gonna have your highs and lows. Um, but I was so proud of him. He was showing us his beautiful home. We're sitting outside on the deck next to the, I'm saying, amazing pool and the whole nine. And I asked him the question. I said, "Hey, man, how does it feel?" He's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Man, how does it feel? Like, this is what we've been talking about for years, is growing a business and having a business that you could potentially exit out of." So he exited out of the business and made 8 figures, right? I didn't say 7 figures. He sold his business for 8 figures. So he bought his $3 or $4 million home with cash. His monthly expenses about $2,000 a month. He's doing okay. I said, "So how does it feel to actually have done it?" He said, "Man, it feels great." And then he said this quote. He said, "The goal is to be prudently frugal and selectively extravagant." And when he said that, my mouth dropped. I'm like, "What? Say that again, bro?" Prudently frugal and select. So I'm writing it down. I was like, "Joe, that is crazy. I love that concept." He said, "Well, I didn't make it up, man. I learned it in this book called The Jewish Phenomenon." Right. So I highly recommend you guys grab this book. The book is called The Jewish Phenomenon: 7 Keys to Enduring the Wealth of a People. So he gave me this book to read, right? And didn't know if he knew me, but if you give me an assignment, I'm going to take care of the assignment. So I went and got the book. I read it, and read it within a week, reached back out to him. It's like, "Hey, man, I want to discuss the book with you." Right. But in the book, I reread the quote that he gave me. And it's kind of phenomenal, right? Because when you kind of read the book, you start to understand why, at one point in time, the Jewish population represented like 4% of the population, but controlled like 90% of the world's wealth. So it's worth diving into. So if you want to get your head wrapped around, you know, tried and true concepts and mindsets and strategies around wealth, I highly recommend that you get the book, right? So I'm loving the book. I'm reading it. I'm circling back to my guy, and it's like, "Yeah, man, this is super dope." But I want to break this down because I want to make sure you understand these words. So the word prudent, right? And if you guys can hear me here, whether you're on YouTube or Instagram or whatever the case may be, type prudent in the chat just so I know that you guys are awake with me. Let me pause for a second, make sure you guys are here rocking with me. Type prudent in the chat if you can hear me okay. Let me jump over here, make sure everything is on, streaming okay. You guys are quiet out there in the social media world. I want to make sure that you guys are getting this information because it's super, super important that you guys get this stuff. Okay, cool. Type prudent in the chat. All right, sweet. So, what does prudent mean? Prudent means wise, disciplined, and forward thinking. Okay. So it's about thinking long term, avoiding emotional decisions, which we live by because we tell people all the time you cannot run your finances off of emotion. You have to make data driven decisions, right? And then, so thinking long term, avoiding emotional decision making when it comes to your finances, but also to protecting the capital, right? So, prudent means you're not just asking, "Can I afford this thing?" You're asking, "What does this cost me long term?" Let this, what I'm saying, resonate for a second. Funny story. My daughter here recently got her job, and she actually has a couple hustles, and super proud of her. So she actually has a job, working at a restaurant, but also she babysits and does nails and things of that nature. So she's out here hustling. And I remember she came to us here this past weekend and said, "Hey, I'm making a commitment to not eat out." To my next paycheck. She said she started looking at her numbers and noticed all the money she was spending on food, right? So she came to this realization on her own, which is amazing. What I'm going to help her with after she gets through this week of not spending money is been like, okay, so instead of spending your money on, eating out and fast food and things of that nature, what if that $100 had been invested? Right. And we're going to run that math so she can see that. So she already came to the conclusion or the, you know what I'm saying, the resolution that, hey, I'm spending too much money on eating out. Let me make my food at home. Let's meal prep, you know what I'm saying? Things of that nature, right? And but now I'm going to show her what it is costing her. See, a lot of times we spend money and we think like, oh, I can afford to eat out and I can afford to, get that steak or I can afford to, do the things, right? Yes, okay, that's great. You have the money to do it, but what does it cost you? What if those dollars had been positioned someplace differently? So I'm going to show her where her, let's call it $50 a week eating out, $200 a month. What if that $200 a month was invested? How much money would she have in the next $200 a month was invested? How much money would she have in the next year, the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40, 50 years, right? So that's what eating out is costing her. And that's what you got to understand about being prudent. It's not, can I afford it? It's more, what does that cost me? So imagine if you stopped at every transaction and ask yourself, I know I can afford this, but what does this cost me? Is this costing me, having the nest egg to live off of and retire early? Is this costing me the savings that I need to buy that house? Is this costing me, my emergency fund? Like, what is the cost? Right? That's what prudent comes down to. Right? So, quick recap: thinking long term, avoiding emotional decisions, and protecting your capital. Now let's talk about frugal, right? So when people typically hear frugal, they think cheap. We don't want you to think cheap, right? Frugal doesn't mean cheap. It means efficient, no waste, maximum value per dollar, and intentional spending. So if we were to reframe this, I want you to think about it this way. Frugal people don't spend less, they waste less. Let that sink in. So again, frugal doesn't mean, penny pinching and cheap. It just means super efficient. Okay. So if we put this together, this idea of prudently frugal, what does it really mean? It means you are disciplined and intentional with money in areas that do not produce a return. Okay. I am not going to spend emotionally. I'm going to not ask myself, can I afford this? I'm going to ask, what does this cost me long term? Then I'm going to ask, hey, am I getting the maximum value out of this dollar? Could this, this $100 spent on fast food or for this, Final Four party, could those dollars be allocated differently, right? It just makes you think. So it's a discipline about being intentional with money in areas that do not produce a return. Okay. So being prudently frugal, that's one part of the equation. But let's keep it 1000%. Man, I like to travel nice. My wife knows that I don't travel. I don't fly unless it's first class or business class, right? Uh, I like nice shoes, right? So I have some Louis Vuitton, I have some Gucci, I have some Versace, right? So I like nice clothes, but I don't dress like that every day. The majority of the time, I'm in sweats, right? I no longer wear custom suits when I left the financial world, right? I may go get a suit off the rack and get it tailored up really nice. And I'm saying? And I might invest in some nice pieces here and there, but I don't feel the need to have to wear a custom suit every day because that's just not my brand, right? And that's not where I want to spend my money. Again, so I'm being right, prudently frugal. But I am selectively extravagant. So let's break this down. Selective means you don't say yes to everything. You do say yes to the right things, right? So this is all about just making filtered decisions based upon goals, not emotions. Well, Perry, how does flying first class equate to, not making an emotional buy? Let me break it down here for you. When I fly to an area, right? So whether I'm going on vacation or for business, I want to be comfortable and I want to be rested. So investing in premium seating with leg space puts me in a better head space, in a better physical position, and for me to go and perform at my best. So whether that's relaxing on the beach, whether that's conducting a mastermind, whatever the case may be, right? So that's important to me. My legs not being cramped up, and being comfortable where I'm able to truly rest when I fly is important to me. My rest is my cheat code. Being rested and comfortable allows me to perform at my best when I get to my destination, right? So that makes sense to me. The ROI on that is high. Okay. Okay. So again, yes, being selective. Being selective just means not saying yes to everything, but saying yes to the few right things. Now, extravagant, right? Love this word. Extravagant is the same thing as saying abundant. And one of the things that we teach right inside our Think Like the Bank challenge. And if you haven't signed up, what I'm saying, make sure you sign up for the next session. It's coming up here soon. Just go to cashflowunlocked.com and register for the next Think Like the Bank challenge. But one of the things that we teach in the Think like the Bank challenge is, our definition of wealth, right? And our definition of wealth is a system of ownership that produces predictable cash flow, right? So I'll say that again, a system of ownership that produces predictable cash flow. Well, what does that have to do with abundance, you ask me? I'm here to tell you. When you have a system of ownership that produces predictable cash flow, you have three results that happen. One, you have safety and security, knowing that your monthly expenses are already covered by predictable cash flow that is coming in without you having to trade your time for money makes you feel safe and lets you sleep at night. Number two is you have time freedom. You control your day. You no longer have to ask permission to do things. Do not have to ask permission to go spend time with my wife, saying in the middle of the day. I don't have to ask permission to take a 30, 60, 90-day vacation, or travel, if you will. We don't even use the word vacation anymore. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to ask permission to go travel for 30, 60, 90 days, right? I don't have to ask permission to train my daughters in the morning. Like, I just don't have to ask permission for these things because I'm in 100% control of my schedule. But the third thing is abundance, right? Abundance is simply this: do you have enough to cover all of your needs and wants, but have extra to be able to be a blessing to somebody else, right? So now let's back this up a little bit. Extravagant means abundant, bold, and unapologetic spending, right? So it's not reckless. It's actually pretty strategic, right? Yeah, Perry, man, we see you bought, what I'm saying, you're in your second Range Rover in less than, 4 years, and you bought your wife another new, what I'm saying, new luxury vehicle, right? Well, here's the deal. Yes, those are luxury vehicles, but two, those are also tax deductions for our businesses, right? So that wasn't a reckless spend. That was a strategic spend. I like to ride nice. I believe my wife deserves to ride nice. And we purchase vehicles that can be deducted and reduce our taxable income on our business, right? So again, strategic, not reckless. So when you combine those two together, you have selectively extravagant means you spend big on the things that improve your life, increase your income, and buy back your time. How crazy is that? So here's the deal. I'll never be the one to say, like, oh man, you shouldn't spend money on that. You shouldn't spend money on first class. You shouldn't spend money on luxury car. You shouldn't get, what I'm saying, the huge home. Never be the person to say that, right? I would be a hypocrite if I said those things. But in order to be in a position to buy those things, you must be prudently frugal on the day-to-day things, right? On your subscriptions. Do you have subscriptions that you're not using, right? For a while we got rid of Hulu Live. We had to get it back because of the tournament because I couldn't watch the games and wife hooked me back up, but we're going to shut it down right after the tournament, right? So again, being prudently frugal on those things. My daughter's learning, hey, yes, we can go eat out maybe once, twice a week, but we don't eat out every day. Being prudently frugal. Let me go ahead and pack my lunch. Let me make my breakfast. Let me eat the leftovers. Y'all picking up what I'm laying down here? So it's a healthy balance between the two, right? So how the wealthy apply this, right? Get rid of subscriptions you don't use, right? Tackle that high interest toxic debt, right? Make sure that you are staying very, very, aware of any type of lifestyle inflation traps. Just because you make more money doesn't mean you need to spend more money, right? And make sure that you are looking at and getting rid of expenses that don't provide a return on investment, right? So here's the deal: the wealthy don't flex on things that don't pay them back. I remember I was meeting with one of my friends. He's kind of like a mentor, and we were at a basketball game together. And he had this beautiful watch on. I'm like, dude, what is that? You know what I'm saying? That's beautiful. He's like, oh, this is a Patek Philippe. I was like, Patek Philippe? I said, what's that? He's like, you never heard of that, Perry? He said, in your line of work and dealing with money. I said, I have not. And I was like, man, so like, where does it like range between, is it like a Rolex or, you know what I'm saying? Kind of, he's like, oh no, oh no, this is way above a Rolex. And I'm like, ooh, way above a Rolex. What is that? Hey, y'all, it's levels. There's levels to all of this, right? He took the watch off and put it in my hand. And he said, try it on. I said, oh my gosh. And then he pulled out an app on his phone and showed me where he tracks his luxury watches the way I track stocks on the stock market. And he's like, so Perry, I don't invest in the stock market. I invest in assets like this and land and things of that nature. So he literally could show me all of the watches, you know what I'm saying, luxury watch. And literally he said, look at the return on these. And it was like 20%, 30%, 40, 50%. He said, that's better than the stock market, isn't it? I was like, yeah. So I'm thinking to myself, oh, well, hold on now. How much did this watch cost? It was like 250. I think it was 275,000. I'm like, oh, take this watch off. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, I'm gonna drop this bad boy, right? I literally had a $300,000 watch on my wrist. And it hit me then that he's not buying it to flex. He's buying it because it's an investment that is appreciating over time and actually outpacing the stock market. Prudently frugal, selectively extravagant, right? So another way to be selectively extravagant, right? Investments like in real estate and business assets. Some people may consider education and coaching. We have a five-figure coaching program. Somebody might say, well, Perry, that's expensive. Nope, it's selectively extravagant. If you believe you deserve the best, then you want to invest in the best coaching and education so that you can go to the next level of being the best, right? S- Time management and delegation and leverage, hiring staff and contractors to do the things that I'm not good at so that I can save time, energy, and money and get a return on investment on my time. Experiences with my family, going to concerts, going on vacation. My daughters were 10 years old, and for their 10th birthday, we took them, you know what I'm saying? They flew. Did they fly first class that flight? Anyway, can't remember that. But nonetheless, we took them to Club Med for their 10th birthday. What 10-year-olds are going to Club Med? And they still remember that experience. They still remember how much fun they had, right? And your health. I can't tell you the thousands of dollars a month that we spend on health. I recently spent $10,000 for an online coach. I look pretty good, I may add. You know what I'm saying? And people are saying I look good at the gym, and I feel pretty good about it. But my wife has a personal trainer. My daughters have strength and conditioning coaches. We have multiple gym memberships, right? Those are the things I would spend on because all of those things provide an ROI, a return on investment. So I'll spend 10K to make 100K, but I won't waste $100 on nonsense, on things that don't actually provide an ROI. So here's your course shift, y'all. The middle class, they spend money emotionally and save what's left. The wealthy, they invest strategically and spend what's left. Let that connect the dots, right? So I'm gonna share something with you guys. This is our M3 framework that we teach inside our Think Like the Bank challenge. Every financial decision, what I'm saying, if you got, a financial decision to make, you usually got an option A and an option B, or option one and an option two. This is the framework we use. We ask ourselves this question: does this increase my cash flow? Number one. Number two, does this reduce my expenses? Number three, does this reduce my taxes? When I'm always presented with two options of where I want to invest my money, or whether or not I want to spend this money or not, I send it through this framework that we created. And that framework typically puts me in the right position about 99% of the time, right? It takes emotion out the equation and allows me to use a framework to make a decision instead of just trying to guess and hope my way through it. Cool. All right, y'all. Let's finish this training up. Understand, you're not broke because you don't make enough. You feel broke because your money has no system. So, questions you have to ask, right? Where are you being extravagant when you should be frugal? And where are you being cheap when you should be investing? Woo! All right, y'all. So on this particular call, I also too want to give you guys the opportunity. We recently did a webinar just because of all of the fluctuation and the craziness going on in the market with our country and the economy and the wars and inflation and all of the things, right? Um, what we want to offer to you is we actually have a cash flow audit tool, right? Where this audit tool will let you see exactly where your money is, identify some opportunities, and also help you identify risk, right? So, for the first time ever, we're going to offer this to people who are not our private clients or not in our mastermind, right? All you need to do is comment audit on this, and we will connect with you in your inbox, DM you the link where you can get our cash flow audit tool, right? Because ultimately, cash flow is the problem we solve for. With recurring, predictable cash flow, you can become work optional decades before you were scheduled to become, but decades before you were scheduled to retire. And that's why we focus on how to become work optional. But in order to become work optional, family, you have to adopt this concept. Be prudently frugal and selectively extravagant. All right, fam, comment audit on this. We will hook you up and get you our cash flow audit tool so you can have that piece. And be sure, if you haven't done so yet, go sign up for the next Think Like the Bank challenge, where you can spend 5 days with me, 10 hours over those 5 days, and we will lay out for you the strategies that the wealthy and the financial and the banks use in order to drive cash flow, create more cash flow, mitigate risk, and become financially independent. All right, family. Hope this was valuable to you. Be sure to share this. Sharing is caring. We will see you guys on the next show. Peace.